Hi, I'm Steven, and this is my vlog about IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease. I've been looking around the last few days at other people's vlogs that are similar. I know some people don't like IBD as a catch-all because it's so broad and overgeneral, but it really fits me well because I was diagnosed last year with Crohn's disease, but my symptoms are closer to ulcerative colitis. So, claiming one or the other doesn't really matter or make sense to me. I just want to be well. So anyway, this is going to be kind of documenting my journey, hopefully to health, and talk about things like the specific carbohydrate diet, because I have high hopes that it's going to help push me into remission and keep me in remission, and just help with health in general. I have tried a few things, which I'll talk about along the way. So I don't really talk about this at all with friends or family, really, except for my wife, who has a hard time, I think, listening to it and doesn't really have much to say. I think that she's going through her own adjustment phase with this. And it's really not my place to burden her with every little detail. But people with IBD, I think, understand, like, sometimes, like, after 2 months of a flare, getting excited about, like a normal bowel movement. And I can feel myself flushing a little bit saying that, and I mean, part of this is, hey, that's a big part of the disease, dealing with crap, literally. So, I guess this is going to be kind of a place to vent as well as share, hopefully meet some other people, network some. It's certainly not the only thing about me or the most salient aspect of my life, although it does bleed into other parts of my life often. It's strange being a faculty member, knowing that I have students who might find this and watch this, and peers and friends, whoever, and it doesn't really matter to me. This is just, one part of me, one side of me, and I hope, if you find this, you find it interesting. Although I don't think it's going to be all that interesting if you don't have Crohn's, colitis, or at least a chronic illness of some sort. So anyway, that's that. I'll start off by giving you a little background. First of all, you've probably already noticed this is not the best production of a vlog. This is my first real attempt, though, so hopefully I'll improve as I go along, and if you have any suggestions, definitely let me know. I also have 2 young children upstairs who can interrupt at any time, and so I should probably move this along. So I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease May 2009. I had been sick for a while, and just started this bleeding thing and passing this mucus all the time, and knew something was wrong. I should have had some idea, since my dad had had ulcerative colitis my whole life. He was diagnosed when I was 4. He's 82 now, and he had a complete ileostomy when I was 21. He had always been really, really sick with colitis. But my dad's not I'm trying to think how to describe him. He's a good guy, but just never talked about his illness at all. And I guess I've decided I'm not going to talk to him about my illness at all. He doesn't even know I've been diagnosed. And I think it's better that way. He's just not the support person I need, and I think he would probably feel guilty in a strange way for passing on the genetics. But it was a shock because I'd been told my whole life by doctors that this was not a genetic thing and I didn't have anything to worry about. I'd even been told I didn't have the personality for this sort of disease, because I guess at one point they thought that people who maintain high level of stress and kind of stuff their emotions were more prone to this, and I'm a pretty expressive guy, I've been told. So whatever, we'll see. I guess that's just completely irrelevant now, because I have it and it doesn't seem to be going away. So in May of last year, my asshole of a doctor did the colonoscopy And when I came out of it, I was still under the whole anesthesia thing. They give you a hypnotic so you don't really remember what's going on. And I don't remember this, but my wife said that he just stood there smiling and nodding his head just to make an appearance. And I asked him, well, do you know what's going on? And he said, oh, yes, you have Crohn's disease, with a big smile on his face, and said it like a couple of times. And when we asked what that meant, he said that he was writing me a prescription and he'd see me in a few months. So then, when I came back about my senses, I was like, no, that's a bunch of crap. I don't have Crohn's disease. I don't even really know what it is. And when I looked it up, it's really scary. A lot of the information you see. And I know it's really bad for a lot of people. But I wanted to get in to see my gastroenterologist. Well, he wouldn't see me, even after I demanded and went through all this. They said 3 weeks would be the earliest. And then I said I'd see somebody else. No. And so finally they got me in, and he unpacked on me. He was so angry that I was so persistent that he passive aggressively just yelled at me the whole time, telling me that this was a fatal disease, and told me all the worst case scenarios about it, and said he was pretty sure I was going to have a really bad time with it, that it was going to end up being severe for me. I'd be on high levels of steroids and then have to have surgeries along the way, and probably toxic megacolon was in my future. And cancer, and whatever. So I was devastated. I walked out of there and I was a little bit irritated, but I sat in my car and just cried because I still had no useful information, and I was told I had this thing that wasn't going to go away. So it was hard in the early days. My wife and I were going through kind of a rough spell. We had a lot of other things going on at the time, and I really think I was a difficult person to be around. Not only was I sick, but just trying to adjust to this whole thing and cope with it. And every time I'd get on the internet, I would find scary things or just overgeneralized information from drug companies trying to get you to use their medication. So the beginning sucked, but I was put on Canasta suppositories, which wasn't the most pleasant thing, since I hadn't been doing that, using suppositories before. But it did help. It took me out of my flare eventually, and then I stopped. I ended up tapering off of those and not using them. And I had a few bumps along the road, nothing major, until I started getting these horrible symptoms. Really painful gas, and just feeling sick all the time, but it was a little bit different than before. And after researching, it turned out I had a gluten intolerance, or at least that's what it sounded like. And removing gluten made me feel so much better. And I'll be talking about that because gluten is just part of the equation. And I know, if I've eaten things I didn't know had gluten in them, but they did, it's made me sick, and I can always tell, it feels like a gluten reaction. So apparently somewhere along the line I passed this tipping point, because, I think it's probably affected me in the past, but never like this. So back in May, I had a pretty big flare and went back on the Canasta twice a day, and it cleared it up. Then in June, again traveling, had another flare, and that one lasted 2 months. The Canasta didn't help at all. I didn't want to go back to the doctor. There was just a lot of stuff involved with that. But finally, I had to go because I was so sick. I was put on Lialda, I think it's called. And when that didn't work, I also stacked on some prednisone, which has worked really well for me. I'm tapering off of it right now, and I'll talk about that later. But right now I'm putting a lot of faith and hope into the specific carbohydrate diet and certain supplements, and I'll talk about that. I am going to believe that they're all going to be miraculous because I think that that will help. Just having that hope and faith. But anyway, that's it. I look forward to posting more, and I really hope to hear from other people out there. Anything that's on your mind, let me know. Take care, and I hope to talk to you more soon. Bye.